Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Spitball Media Podcast. We're doing a weekly look at the top entertainment stories, putting our little spit on it. We're just going to spit on it and put it in. My name is John Draper. Joining me, of course, is none other than the Prince of Philadelphia. Shah, how are you?
What's going on, brother?
I'm okay. I found my Sinead O'Connor shirt. I'm very excited. I found it at the bottom of the closet.
Couple weeks too late, but still.
I know. I know. If only she was alive to see it. And of course, you know him, you love him. He's the mayor of Burleytown himself. Give him a big hug. It's Bish O'Brien. Bish O'Brien, how are things out in Ohio?
Doing great. I don't know. You threw me off talking about spitting on it. That's a throwback to way back in the day, man.
Just spit on it. We're just spit. Hey, look, we're just putting our spit on the top entertainment story, Shah, right? I mean, that's what we're doing.
We've watched way too much porno, man. We're spitting on everything. You know?
Are we gonna start doing porn reviews?
Yeah, we're gonna lube up the knob, man. You know?
Oh my God. we're gonna start doing porn reviews. That would be amazing. Strictly 80s though. I feel like we do genres if we had to do the porn reviews. That would be fun. Right, B-Show. We gotta go classics.
That or like Sean, I should try to find the weirdest shit we can find and see like what grosses you out and what secretly you end up getting into. That'd be the fun one.
Why is it for me? That's not fair. Shah, you'd probably get the food porn. Food or
you always seem so surprised. No. Sorry.
I'm actually really surprised because Vinegar Syndrome, we talked about them a couple weeks ago. They recently they separated their websites because they used to put out porno. For people that don't know, Vinegar Syndrome started out as a porn restoration company. No, seriously, it started out as a GoFundMe for Herschel Gordon Lewis, the Grindhouse director.
Godfather of Gore.
Exactly. So he had some porno movies that needed to be restored. So they set up a GoFundMe, and it did so well that they actually built a company out of it. So that's how Vinegar Syndrome started. But they recently separated Vinegar Syndrome and their porn line. So now they have their own porno website, which they're putting out like 4K transfers of 70s bush porn, which is just, I don't know, man. I don't know if I need that in my life, you know?
Yeah, I mean, B-Show, it's bad enough that it's 70s, but, there's a lot of unkeptness there. But now to see that in all of its pubic 4K glory.
You can see the lice and the crabs. I mean, it's spectacular.
God damn, I'm going to yak. I'm going to hurl. But thanks for checking us out. But if you haven't noticed, you don't get the full podcast. You get an abridged version. The only way to get the full show the way it's intended with the extra bonus show that comes at the end for the Patreon members is by going to patreon.com/breaktheapp. The address is still /breaktheapp over at Patreon, but it is for Spitball Media. And of course, that's just $5, Shop. Best program bargain in the business.
Best bargain in the business. Here, I'll show you something real quick. I'll mute myself so I don't make the rapper all loud. But I recently just bought this sandwich, literally just now, from a regular ass deli, turkey sandwich on fucking sliced bread, $10. Check this out.
Oh. Wow, that's a $10 sandwich. That's like half a $10 sandwich to me. Jesus, Bisho, can you believe this? Oh my God, it's nothing. That's $10.
At least it's kind of girthy. I mean, it's not very long, but it's got some girth to it,
Yeah, $10. This is, it's a high quality sandwich. Like it's on good bread and shit.
Yeah, it's nice bread.
And all that. But $10, bro, for this.
Yeah, no, that's not worth it. You can get 2 months of Patreon for that with hundreds of hours of exclusive content, right, Bisho?
I was gonna say it actually looks like the width of a $10 bill, and for half of that, you can get access to our back catalog. There's 4 or 5 bonus episodes we've never released to the public other than just on Patreon. And we're going to start doing some other stuff too. So check us out, man.
There's a lot of fun stuff coming down. What's that, Shah?
I was saying just our Patreon is literally 2 bites of a sandwich now. So.
Wow. I'd still be hungry after that, Shah. I got to be honest. I'd still be hungry. That's a damn shame. You should have just made food.
I did get a bag of Lay's. They put out a new flavor. They took the Doritos, the ranch one, and they put that seasoning on the regular Lay's, which is odd.
Okay. How much were the Lay's? $8? Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Doritos Lay's, which is, I don't know how I feel about this.
That's some stoner food, right, Bisha?
It is. Well,
yeah. What do they charge you? Like a Morgan Silver dollar every chip?
Yeah, I missed my mortgage this year because I ate. So.
Well, listen, you don't have to miss your mortgage. You can just go to patreon.com/break the app. You're going to get hundreds of hours of exclusive content. And of course, a special thank you to the many Patreon people who have been with us since day one. They keep the lights on in this place. And we're really grateful to have them on this voyage as we move forward away from sort of the apocalypse, and into the fun stuff, B-Show. Always the fun stuff.
Shit, we're talking about 70s bush porn. We're talking
Mm.
about ranch flavored Lay's Doritos something. I don't know.
Well, it's Cool Ranch Lay's based on the Doritos flavor.
That's so weird. What would
Yeah.
they make? Would they make a Ruffles flavored Dorito? That doesn't sound like it
They
works.
just did that. So they did a kettle chip of Lay's, and it tastes
best
like
show we've ever done.
Ruffles. So they're mixing like the flavors of the chips with the textures, which is I don't really know how I feel. about it.
Is AI just making the chips now, and they just
Yeah.
don't know the difference? Is that what it is?
They're coming up with the ideas, man.
It's AI chips. But thank you again to the many, many Patreons. We appreciate it so much. And of course, they're going to get a special bonus show when we wrap this show up. So with exclusive content. And of course, you can join them. Go to patreon.com/break the app, $5. 2 bites of a sandwich with no chips. And of course, I believe certain condiments would be extra. So as we're joining you this week, we're coming off of another pretty big weekend in the box office. Obviously, we still have the lingering strike. We're still finding out a lot of things in regards to AI. And a special shout out to Chris Matthews, just joined us in the room there, our good friend. And of course, I'm sure he's excited about the Orioles. But B-Show, I want to talk about your movie experience this weekend because you went and saw one of the bigger movies that opened. I'm talking about the brand new, highly reviewed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's back.
I wasn't expecting a whole lot because we've all had our experiences with reboots and remakes. And I think we've talked about the Michael Bay or whatever it was, Ninja Turtles, were okay. I got to say, I dug this style. It's almost done in like a quasi comic book format. It's not super smooth motion like regular CG or animation. So it was kind of cool. My kid loved the movie for sure, and I don't know, it was different. Like Jackie Chan plays the voice of Splinter, and he's kind of funny, and
That's
they
awesome.
mess with some of the source material a bit. So it's different, but like they show Splinter voices Jackie Chan. It's kind of meta. They're showing like Jackie Chan movies and Bruce Lee movies, and like as he's training the turtles.
Are we
Yeah.
talking about the real movies or the cartoon
Yeah.
versions?
No, it's
Oh,
not
you're
cartoon.
kidding. Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
so,
know
like,
that. That's wild.
Like there's one part where they sneak out to go get pizza or something or groceries.
No, they like pizza? Who knew?
Well,
Who
they go to get
knew?
groceries, and there's like a movie in the park type of thing, like in Brooklyn, and they're showing Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and they show the screen, and it's like the actual movie in the middle of this cartoon movie. It's kind
Oh,
of funny,
that's cool.
but it was really cool because it wasn't as dark as the original, but it plays on that teen angst, like they want more and they want to be accepted, and Splinter's afraid, and then there's some other mutations and stuff that happened, and it was fun. It was a lot of action, a lot of fighting, but it wasn't like when we heard some of the kids talking and we saw April, we thought it might be a little bit too PG, a little bit soft. It's not going to be like a hard R type movie, but it
Of
was
course
fun.
not.
It was fun.
Now let me ask something, B-Show. In the theater, were there mostly small children? I'm just curious about the audience for this.
I had my kid with me, so I didn't pay too much attention, but it seemed pretty mixed. Like a lot of families, there were some, people like our age in there, probably couples by themselves, but there was a lot of like couples and families. So
Okay. Were there any men in raincoats sitting by themselves ominously in a top hat?
no, but there was one guy doing the Pee-wee dance in the back, jerking it.
Oh,
So we had to,
Jesus Christ. Shah, have you looked at the trailer for the Turtles? It does look like it looks like it has like a very cool soundtrack. It looked like it was meant to be very modern.
You know what? If I'm being honest, I haven't even seen the trailer, so I'm actually gonna pull it up right now because I don't know, man. This movie I've given up on the Turtles ever since the Michael Bay one. I've just had no interest in anything they've done because I want the old cartoons. You know what I mean? I can't adapt to the times with the new wave of.
Are you talking about the OG, the original? We're talking about
Yes.
the early 90s, late 80s cartoon, the ones that kicked it off, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
Their new appearances, man. I can't get into it. It just looks too goofy. It looks like a Nickelodeon cartoon, and I don't know, bro. I'm watching it right now though. I just turned it on, so.
Now, my understanding, B Show, is that they have a very hip hop, like Tribe Called Quest, like cool soundtrack for this.
It is it's an awesome soundtrack. That's one thing I forgot to text you guys after the movie was Tribe Called Quest. There's a couple songs from Arrested Development in there. It's a very, I hate to say groovy, but almost like a groovy, chill soundtrack. And then I found out at the end of the movie, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
Atticus Finch, Atticus Ross. I forget. Atticus Finch. What are we talking about? Kill Mockingbird.
I almost said that.
I know. It's the first thing. I mean, it's a literary, reference. But go ahead.
Yeah. But they did the score, which it wasn't like over the top and grating like a lot of Trent Reznor stuff. It matched really well. But I really wanted to find the music playlist. Like, see, this makes me pine for the days of CD stores where you could go find like songs from the motion picture, that kind of soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't find that unless you go on Spotify, and there was a bunch of bullshit. But a lot of great music. Like I said, fun time, great music, chill vibes, but a lot of action.
Yeah, it looks fun. I don't know. I think I would like to pull up that soundtrack shot too, because I'm curious to see what hip hop is. I know it's an all hip hop soundtrack apparently. By the way, before we move any forward, let's say what's up to, of course, Slave Cheeks and Marquise is in the chat room, and Chris Matthews brings up Reznor's done some amazing soundtracks. I think what he did for the Social Network, I believe it might have won him an Academy Award. Him and his partner there. It's a brilliant fucking score. Do we know? Oh, is Fatty up in here too? Oh, is Fatty up in here? I didn't see Fatty. Oh, what's up, Fatty? Bisha, do we have a way to pull up just the listing of the soundtrack? I could try to pull it up on my phone. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'll try. I tried to find it after the movie, but it just kept pulling up the score. So give me a sec.
Oh, it just kept pulling up
for that. This kind of looks like almost like claymation. It's a weird type of animation.
Yeah, I don't consider this a cartoon. Like almost like in the way Into the Spider-Verse is not like. That's why I told you guys you would like it. These are not like, they don't look like cartoons to me. They look like, claymation, like modern take, I guess, on claymation, right? Because it's not even really claymation.
Yeah. It's like digitized textured art almost. It's a lot more 3D than your, regular cartoons you would see. I don't know how I feel about it, man. I don't really like the way it looks.
Well, Shah, you're gonna feel this soundtrack when I tell you who's on this fucking soundtrack, because it's remarkable, dude. Look at this shit. You got M.O.P., De La Soul,
what? They got
Blackstreet, Dr. Dre. They got No Diggity in there, Gucci Mane, Shimmy Shimmy Yaw, Tribe Called Quest, Naughty by Nature, Big Pun, DMX, Busta Rhymes, Lauryn Hill, Gangstar, Old Dirty Bastard, and Gravediggers. What the fuck, yo? Dude, this is amazing. B-Show, this is incredible, man. Holy goddamn shit. And they got the ninja rap from Vanilla Ice. Nobody told me this.
Yeah, that's a cool little Easter egg. I think they turn on a car in a chop shop and it comes on for a sec. But
you're shitting me.
They went in somewhere and ODB comes on. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, there's no way. But no, man, there's a lot of great songs in this movie, man. And Shot, to your point, it's more like I get a stop motion vibe when I watched it. It was more like that than traditional animation. So
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Slave Cheeks brings up a good point, guys. He's like, it's the Grand Theft Auto radio station soundtrack.
It is. Yo, I'm actually really surprised by this. I mean, the Gravediggers and
what the fuck?
Big Pun, MF
dude, M.O.P.
I don't know, man. M.O.P. Annie Up is one of the hypest songs. I'll be 55 years old. If I drive around and M.O.P.'s Annie Up comes up, dude, we might have a traffic stop. Like, I mean, that song makes you want to snatch people's fucking chains. Like, that's
and Party Up, DMX, which is a huge fucking song. It's Got You All in Check from Busta Rhymes. Guys, this might be the soundtrack of the year. I'm sorry. I mean, like, who's got a soundtrack like this right now?
I feel like that's Kimmy Kincaid's rotation.
Wait, hold on. Somebody just said, guys. Nasty Leroy. What's up, Nasty Leroy? Someone just said the game. Yeah, just said they do the version of the Old Boy hallway scene. B-Show.
I still haven't seen Old Boy.
I know, but the hallway scene is like it's been copied. Like it's like a. Shah, you saw it?
No, I just watched the trailer. That scene is in the trailer though.
Oh my god, I kind of want to go see this fucking movie. I'm not gonna lie, man. Like I kind of want to go see this shit just to hear all these songs. Oh my god. I'm intrigued. Shah, what were you gonna say?
I have Pee-wee's Big Adventure playing at a local theater this weekend. I was debating on going to see that.
Oh my god. Do you think they would let you go? You know, they should show that in any remaining porn theater, just as a tribute to the guy. Like you should be allowed to just get away with it that one time. You know, I like E.G. Dale. What's her name? What was the girl? What Dottie? She was kind of cute, Dottie. I like
E.G.
Dottie.
Daily, yeah.
Yeah, Digital Lizard point out what's up, Digital. It's Seth Rogen wrote and produced it, so that explains the cool '90s, '80s hip hop soundtrack we show.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of throwbacks, a couple of Easter eggs. Like I said, the Ferris Bueller mention.
That's
I
amazing.
think the scene is the twist and shout in the parade thing.
Okay.
So it's like about the good thing too is I'm not going to give too much away, but it's like they want to be accepted by being heroes, and then realize like, oh no shit, we need to do the right thing to do the right thing, not because we think people will like us. And it sounds kind of cornball on the top of it, but like it's a much more like if you're watching this expecting the second Ninja Turtles movie where it's all just Muppets and Vanilla Ice, it's better than that. It's better than that.
Well, I gotta tell you, the soundtrack for me, this is a slam dunk. My oldest Violet saw it and she fucking loved it. She was like, "Oh my god, you need to see this movie," and I was like, "Yeah, maybe I'll check it out." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know, I want to see it. Don't get me wrong, but this, I don't know, Shah. This makes me want to go see this fucking movie."
I mean, I'll definitely check it out when it comes out on streaming. I don't know if I want to go to the movie theater though, man. I went to the movies last week, which we'll get into. But dude, things are getting more and more expensive, man.
Yeah,
we spent $75.
Oh,
I spent $75, and all we got was 2 movie tickets, 1 popcorn, 1 candy, and 1 drink.
that sounds about right, actually. But listen, so Bisho, what would you give this as a grade? You recommend it, I assume, right?
Well, am I talking about a 5-star grade?
Give me a Meltzer. Yeah, what is it? Give me your Meltzer review.
I don't know, 3 or 4 out of 5. Like I wasn't as surprised by this as I was by Mario. I don't think it's going to be the big hit Mario was.
No, it's not trying to be at all. It's not trying to be either.
But it was a fun watch, man.
Okay. And whatchamacallit, it's still doing quite well. I don't know where it's at box office wise, but I don't think it cost a shit ton of money. And of course, Bisho didn't mention this, Shah. You know who the villain is, Shah, right?
No. Who is it?
The Patriarchy. No, that's the Barbie movie. The villain is Ice Cube. It's
Really?
no Shredder. Shredder is not in this movie.
Right.
That's what people told me. Bisho, Ice Cube is the principal villain.
Yes, it's sort of based on Baxter Stockman, the mutant fly. I think they call him Superfly, and it is Ice Cube. I forgot about that. But Shredder, let's just say they set it up for future movies, and I'll leave it at that.
Now, before we get off this topic, I just want to bring this up because we did talk about this previously. The April O'Neil character, the fact that they made her like a Lizzo type, is that anything that anyone should give a shit about in this film?
No, because I think she's like 15 anyway.
Okay, so they made her like an obese 15-year-old, right?
She wasn't obese. She just was kind of blocky.
She's not fat. She just eats a lot. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. So it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like Nell Carter prancing around. It was just a person, I guess. I don't know.
And they made her young. By the way, I heard some of the voices. These kids sound very young doing these voices.
I was worried about that.
I'll be honest with
I'm sorry,
you.
Shah.
No, sorry. I was just saying. I'll be honest with you, man. I as a color person of color, but not black or white. I kind of get tired of this shit, man. Like the representation of everybody needs to be included in every movie. Because, like I said, I've never felt represented in a movie myself. Because I'm Persian, so like,
right.
Only chance we had was 300, and they got a bunch of white dudes for it.
Yeah.
But like, I've never. Maybe that's why I don't care. But the fact that I feel like every movie now, the main character has to be a person of color, Asian, Indian, black, or obese, or lesbian, or
all those things at the same time, which is we're seeing that quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Exorcist movie, right? Like the 2 girls, like one is black, one's white. Everything has to be like even, and it just kind of like gets to a point where it's like, dude, you don't have to go out of your way to represent every single walk of life in every single movie.
Well, Shad, the thing is, it's not possible, right? Like you're a Persian person, and obviously we've addressed this before, but I'm struggling to think of an accurate, other than Nandor, the Relentless from What We Do in the Shadows. That actor is from Iran, but he's not. They tie them to fictitious countries just to not have a stereotype. But he's an Iranian actor. I don't know his real name, but he is from Iran. and he's clearly not American. He's clearly not a white person. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's interesting to see that because it is odd that even in things like Prince of Persia, the 300, these are white dudes. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine how that must feel while everyone is tripping over themselves to find representation, and you're sitting there going, "Hey, I'm not Puerto Rican. I know you think I am, but I'm not."
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think you should just go based off the talent. You know, I obviously want to see more representation of people from all walks, but I don't want them to go out of their way to try to include everybody when it's not based on talent. Just get the most talented person available, you know?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't
Now,
know, man. You look at Spider-Man, you look at, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones. Now it's like a thicker girl.
yeah.
You look at Exorcist, it's half and half. It's just I don't know. I feel like every movie they go out of their way. Even I mean, talk to me. Look at the whole crew. They got every
That's an
single
interesting
type
thing.
of
I wanted to
person.
bring that up actually, but before I do, Bisho, is one of the turtles gay?
I saw something on an article that said that, but I think they all. There's one that particularly has a crush on April,
Oh, that's
and
cute.
then
But
I don't think it's that.
that's like a cute kid thing. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it goes along with them wanting to be accepted. It's part of
Oh,
that, but they didn't say anything about that. And then I saw an article that said that Splinter was gay, but then like at the end of the movie, like he takes a liking to someone who I think is a woman. It's an animal, so I don't think so.
these are
But
animals.
that was one of the refreshing things too. Is not that they shouldn't do stuff like that, but like
No,
it wasn't.
I just don't know how that incorporates itself into androgynous animals. Like
Yeah,
I don't know how that works.
it wasn't like April was like, "Who are you? Hi, I'm April O'Neil, and my pronouns are she, they." It's like
That's what
it was
okay,
just,
but that's the
"I'm
way it was
April." Yeah.
presented. If you guys remember, Shah, if you remember that too, that was kind of the way this was being presented, which is fake, right? I mean, it just didn't happen.
Well, let's thank God for that. I think that would be a bit of a reach if they started announcing genders in cartoons.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
happen though. It's gonna happen soon.
Well, it's already happened. We said with Transformers. It's happened with some of the other properties and stuff like that. But listen, I think this movie looks great. The April thing, if she's a 15-year-old who's just very nosy, like and becomes friends with them, and she strikes up a relationship with them, that's the origins of it. There is a lot of people that say the original April O'Neil was based on, I think, Kevin Eastman's girlfriend who was half black. Then there's other people who said that's actually not true. The reality is, I don't know the motivation behind any of this, but as long as it's good and it sounds like it's great and it has the soundtrack of the year. So 2 thumbs up, two cowabungas for Turtles. And I might go check it out just on the strength of this, all this talk. But Shah, you had a movie experience this weekend. You saw a movie that everyone is kind of talking about who's seen it. Unfortunately, I feel like not enough people have seen it. Shah, we want to get your opinion on what is now considered the best horror movie of the year as far as review wise, and that is the A24 breakout hit Talk to Me.
Yeah, I'm actually amazed by how many YouTubers are supporting this movie because there's a lot of YouTube channels that don't even cover movies that I follow that do vlogs and shit. They're now talking about this movie because they're like, yo, the guys that made this movie are YouTubers. We want to support this. This is our way of getting the word out there. More people should watch this. So that's just a side note. Obviously, that's not my review, but I thought that was kind of interesting that I saw several channels that I'm subscribed to that don't talk about horror movies or movies at all. But they reviewed this and they wanted to get the word out there solely based on the fact that these guys are YouTubers. But yeah, we went to like 11:30 at night film, which I think was the best time that we could go. It wasn't filled at all. I would say maybe like a solid 25 people. Maybe is that would you say that's decent?
Yeah, I think that's decent. Was it in a large theater or was it a smaller version of the theater?
Yeah. I went to the IMAX. Obviously, the movie wasn't an IMAX, but I went to the local IMAX theater. It was Saturday night. But fuck, man, this movie kind of caught me off guard because I was going into it expecting me not to like it as much as I did, even though people were saying it's like the best movie of the year. When I watched the trailer, this is like the first A24 movie that I thought looked good, but it kind of gave me the Blumhousey vibes with the possession and the overall blue saturated filter all over everything and all that. It just kind of looked like a Blumhouse movie. I could have not been more wrong. The opening of this, obviously, we're not going to spoil anything, but I was like, oh, fuck. Oof. Okay, all right. This is not a Blumhouse movie. This is all right. We're getting weird.
Oh, God, that was brutal.
Which I think was interesting because the way they open up the movie, they kind of, I think that's the second one is probably going to focus on that, on how that came about. It's probably going to be a prequel,
Mm.
which is, I think is a smart way to go. But fuck, man. I mean, the acting was great. They got brand new people that are not really known at all. I didn't know a single person in this movie.
You didn't recognize the mom? She's been in a lot of movies. If you look her up, you could be
Actually,
like, "Fuck this!" Oh yeah, she's a ton of movies.
maybe. I mean, she had a bunch of makeup on stuff on. So,
The
but
mother. I'm just saying, like, the mother was a secondary character.
yeah. No, I don't think I don't recall. What was she in? Do you recall anything
I
that I
can't. I'm
didn't
a
watch?
lot of movies, like just a
Yeah.
lot of. She's a not a major player, but like she's always in. Like,
But I mean, the teenagers, the younger, the youthful ones, they're all pretty much new people. That I appreciated that, man, because this movie focuses on like the younger generation so much, and their lingo and how they talk and how they act. The hipster generation. Last thing I wanted to see is people my age pretending to be 25 and saying no cap and this and that. So
Right.
I liked how it was genuine. They got people that are actually that age. They got people that are unknown, which I appreciated. There's really good practical effects in this. And the violence, holy fuck, man. Oh my God. There's a scene in The Exorcist with the desk that everybody knows.
Yeah.
And this movie puts that
Oh
to
my
shame.
God. I
Like
don't know if I can watch that
movie,
again.
this movie goes way beyond that, man. This
Yeah.
is like fucking that scene on steroids.
Yeah.
Holy shit. When that happened, dude, my jaw
Graphic.
dropped. I was like, wow, that hurt me. Like there's not so many deaths well, it wasn't even a death yet.
No.
But there's not many movies that make me feel uncomfortable with, like, make me almost cringe, to the point where I feel it, that I felt, when I watched that, I was like, fuck, I feel that. Like they really did a good job with that. And it's not your typical possession approach, I like the backstory to the hand. It's kind of like, you don't know who it really belongs to. I'm hoping we find that out in the second movie.
I'm sure we will.
I think all that is just interesting aspects of it, man. I fucking loved it. And I thought, honestly, more people should watch it, even though it's made its money back and then some. Like, it's definitely a success. But I think this is one of those movies that you don't have to be like a A24 apologist like me and love like art house cinema and shit like that. This is something that your average person can go and be like, holy shit, this is actually a great fucking horror movie. Like, this is a classic,
Now let me ask you a question. Do you think this is either going to start a trend of this minimal? I don't want to say minimal because I feel like when I say minimal, people think it's low budget, but minimal in a sense, practical effects, unknown cast, plot driven, and basically a watered down, like we don't need $40 million, $50 million horror movies. Like, do you think this is going to be a blueprint, or is this going to be like basically an anomaly when it comes to what we're talking about in the beginning of next year and all the other horror films that are on deck?
Well, I think that's already been happening though. Don't you think so? I think that's been a theme in A24 movies. I mean, Hereditary didn't really have that much. I mean, the set design.
But it had very famous people in the film. I mean, you had huge names there. I mean, Toni Collette's a star. Gabriel Byrne's a fucking star. They could open a film. These are kids. These are kids from Australia that nobody knows who the fuck they are. You know what I mean? And they're opening this huge film with this major studio. Do you think this is going to be something people copy, or do you think this is just going to be a standalone thing? Like, this is unique just to the film?
No, I think A24 themselves will probably copy this formula, which, I mean, they do in other movies. They give a lot of people their first shot at films. But I would hope to see more of it, man, because I get tired of the same people. I don't want to see recycled talent, bring in new blood and just fucking give them a shot. Like these directors, again, I don't want to keep getting on my knees for A24, but there isn't that many companies. Dude, there isn't that many companies that would hire YouTubers to fucking.
Oh no, of course.
They take risks.
I mean, Bisho, don't you think? But that's the beauty of A24's success is they can hire YouTubers. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was a Sean Oliver comment. He talked about he had to do Missy Hyatt's pajama party so that he could do Timeline 1983 WWF. It's like you got to do the ones that you have to do so you can do the ones you want to do. And this makes sense here too, because with A24 having more success, they could do some bigger budget movies like they've done in the past year or two, but they can still do an X and what was the other one? Not Maxine.
Pearl.
X and Pearl, where they can shoot them back to back. It's the same set. Like they can do stuff like that and take chances because they're kind of like they're stepping between worlds in a way. They're like a daywalker, like Blade, where they're kind of like a I don't know, like an artsy
I was
art
gonna say
house.
you talk about between daywalking between art house and mainstream.
Yes, and they're starting to have more success being mainstream, but they don't have to go. I hate to say cringy because it's overused, but like Blumhouse. So they can get away with taking chances and doing certain things, but they also now have more mainstream recognition where people see A24, and I think they're starting to recognize that as a successful horror production company.
Now, Bisha, I know you haven't seen it yet, but hearing all this hype and all this talk, what does this do to your interest for the film?
Well, to be fair, I was gonna go see that, and then I remembered I promised my son I'd take him to TMNT. So
Ah,
yeah, so that
kids win
happens every
again.
time. I know.
Well, I mean, Shot, tell him he should see this in a theater. It's kind of shocking.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to mention. This is a theater experience. Like this is one of those films that I really think benefits being watched in a cinema. And there's a lot of symbolism too that I kind of dissected after I watched the movie. If you pay attention, man, I mean, obviously, the hand has something to do with the film, but there's a lot that people do with their hands in this movie.
Yes, interesting point.
It's like, again, this is not a spoiler because it's such a minor thing that nobody would even notice, but she does a lot of stuff with her nails. If you've
I was
noticed,
just gonna
she
say the
gets
blood in
nervous.
her nails. His
Not only
blood
that,
in her.
she paints her nails again and again and peels it right off,
Huh.
out of nervousness. Like there's a lot of stuff with hands. You'll see.
What did you think of her, Shot, carrying the movie? That kid.
I thought she was fucking great.
She's something,
dude.
huh? She's
She
special.
was fucking great.
Yeah, and
I thought she was
she's
phenomenal.
gorgeous too. She's a gorgeous girl.
Yeah, I thought she was phenomenal.
She's not as young as you think she is. I think she's about 25, playing 17, which is not the crime, but I'm just saying, Bisho, this is a very young cast. Like the young kids are young in this movie. There's 14-year-olds who are 14, right, Shot? I mean, they are. They're just very young.
And I thought the brother, obviously
that kid.
he played a large role in the movie, even though he was silent for most of the time.
Mm.
But wow, dude, that contributed so much to the creepiness of this film. I thought his whole character and him basically getting possessed was one of the craziest parts of the
Oh
film.
my God.
Like,
Yeah, Bisho, you need to see it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you should absolutely see this.
Yeah, in theaters. I'm sure. I imagine it's still in theaters now for people because we always want people to go see these in theaters. But
Yeah.
if you have an opportunity to see it now, Shah, let me ask you a question. I got to put you on the spot because I'm going to give you my answer. If you probably already know it, as of today, and we got a long way to go. Is it the horror property of 2023?
It's a toss up between this and Infinity Pool for me, personally. You saw Infinity Pool, right?
Oh yeah, I saw it the day it came out. Yeah, those are my top two.
Yeah. So you prefer this over Infinity Pool, which I think is
do only because this is more of a traditional scary film. This is like Sam Hoyos, our good friend in Red River, said this tonight. He put a review up, Sean, if you saw it. He said this is a legitimate scary film. This is a horror movie. Infinity Pool is an uncomfortable thriller with terribly uncomfortable thing. I mean, just like uncomfortableness, right, Shah? But this is a horror film. I mean, this is true horror in the sense that this is a scary film that scares people. Like people are scared of this fucking movie. I'm not scared of Infinity Pool. I'm uncomfortable with it.
Yeah. And honestly, I think one thing that I have to say kudos to with these directors was the sound. I mean, now I'm not just talking about the score. I'm talking about the eerie sounds in the background. Like that's why I say you should experience this in the theater because that really fucking triggered everything for me.
Oh
dude.
yeah,
it was mostly the sounds, the build up to the scenes, the footsteps. Like I've watched a lot of horror movies in theaters, but the one thing that usually doesn't stick out to me is sound. This time around, that's the first thing I noticed was like, holy shit, they really played around with the sound and utilized that to scare the shit out of you. Like,
yeah, they did some job, these kids. The cinematography. I mean, Bisho, one of the things about this is, and I said this to Shah offline, and I said this to Sam Hoyos, our buddy over at the Red River there. I feel like this does a lot of things right. The acting, the direction, the cinematography, the violence, the fucking forget about a jump scare. I mean, Shah, these things that we're talking about that we're not going to ruin for people are very brutal to watch on a film, right? I mean, they just are.
Yeah, and it goes there. It goes there when you don't expect it to.
Oh God, it really does.
And it doesn't really have jump scares, and that's what I appreciate. Like I don't like jump scare movies. You know, that formula to horror just bothers me. It annoys
Mm.
me. I know every time it's coming. It's just, you know, the camera pans to the left, there's nothing there. Pans to the right, there's nothing there. You know, next time around it goes to the left, something's gonna be. I don't want to see that. I'm not interested in that. That's not creative. We've seen that a million times. What these guys did was legitimately scare the shit out of you. And I'm not usually one that like feels uncomfortable with themes in films, but I was like, yo, this is done very well. Like they
Mm.
actually executed this. I don't want to say perfectly, but as close to it as they're going to get for their
Yeah,
debut film. Like,
I will say one thing of the movie, and this is a minor criticism. It does not take away from the plot. There's one thing I found strange, and I'm going to bring it up because the movie's been out for a little bit. It's not brand new. Um, Everyone in the film B show is Australian. It's shot in Australia. They go to an Australian school. Everyone's Australian except the father, and this is a crucial thing in the film, the father of the main character girl. And it's never explained to me how this man, who is clearly an American, is just living in Australia. He's the only American in the movie, and we don't hear any sort of backstory. Like they didn't develop this. Like you know, when I met your mom in college, she convinced me to move to Brisbane. Like I just feel like Shah, that was just a minor thing. Did you happen to notice that the father was not Australian?
that's a great point, but I honestly didn't notice it at all.
I don't. And by the way, this is a very dickhead thing to say of the movie, but I'm just looking for
No, but
flaws.
when you're making movies, you have to pay attention to stuff like that because that's what people do. They dissect every scene from a film, you know. So I mean, he was a main character in the film, I'd say.
Oh yeah, he's got a
Um,
huge part in the movie, you know. But
and
B show, it's one of those things like it's like, oh, if I'm looking for a fault, I'm just looking for like a little fault there. Shaw, did you have anything that you would change in the film?
I didn't like the makeup effects on the mom. It looked kind of cheesy to me. That was my main complaint. She had like purple stuff on her lips almost. Like it looked a little cheesy to me.
Now you're
And I know a
talking
lot of
about
people.
the mother of the main character because there is a mother in the
Yes.
movie who is not who. I know we're talking cryptically. It's annoying,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the mother of the main character. I didn't like the way she looked in the film, but I know that's just subjective because a lot of people were praising how great she looked on these horror forms.
Yeah, they were.
I didn't think it looked good. But aside
Yeah.
from that, everything else was great. And A24, another thing they do in their films, almost every film, is the theme of family dynamic. You know, and
Interesting.
like the traumas and families and just everyday life that everybody kind of goes through. And they really dig deep on this one with that, man. It's, you know how Hereditary, the whole thing is based on family. You know,
Oh God.
Midsommar, it's the relationship. It's, you know, you look at the witch. You know, she doesn't feel like she belongs. Yeah, it's just every single movie they've put out, the family thing is in it. Men, you know, I mean, look at
Yeah.
Men, right? The relationship, men being abusive. Just so this was another film that I thought the relationship was very interesting between the dad, the mom, and the girl. You know, obviously
Yeah,
we're not going to
and their
get too
friendship,
into it, but
the friendship between the girls, you know, like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
the social pressure. And B show, I don't know if Shaq caught this, but this was my interpretation of it. I felt like this movie also is an indictment on internet culture and how youths share inappropriate things on the internet. Like when you see this movie, I'm curious if you'll catch that vibe. I understand that these kids come from that who made this film, but it's almost like they're they're admitting that this is shitty to show people vulnerable, awful situations and put it on YouTube is a gross thing. That I think is a backdrop of the film. And I don't know if that was intentional, but that was something I caught as a 50-something-year-old motherfucker, B show. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's interesting because, horror, I always have found my favorite horror movies are always ones that kind of hold up a mirror to society. And horror tends to do that faster than other mainstream genres of film like comedy and drama. They seem to really be able to tap into the zeitgeist, whatever's going on at the time, and exploit that for whatever purpose. And you mentioned that last week, and I remembered. I think they asked Robert Englund what they should do with Freddy Krueger, and he said one idea he had was using social media, using trends as a way to spread the fear and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more movies doing that. We didn't see it necessarily with social trends, but when I watched the movie Unfriended, it was all shot almost like Zoom
That's what it was
style.
supposed to, right. But that's a
Yeah.
tenet of that film, though, right? Wasn't that one of the main things in the film?
Yeah, the whole film was like a group chat talking about something that happened, and then someone comes on the group chat and people start dying. So again, that's one reason I love horror movies so much is it's just this mirror to all the bad shit or picking up on some of these, I hate to say toxic things, but like a couple years ago, kids were dying because they were trying to chug cinnamon. And it was like every day, like, and I know it's become the whole, a friend of a friend knows a friend who this happened to. It's the new urban legend type of stuff. But like, that's the world we live in now where people are doing stupid shit on TikTok because they want to think it's funny or they want to get views. And to use that as a vehicle in some ways for a horror movie is really, not just timely, but I think really good to do.
Yeah. Shah, did you catch that that was the backdrop of this as well? That they were basically exposing kids putting fucked up shit on social media? Because that's a big part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's a main focus, I would say, in the early parts of the film, in the first act, because again they're recording everything, they're recording all the demonic possessions, and I'm not giving away anything. This is on
Yeah.
in the trailer. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, I don't know if you caught this, but they took the avenue they took to kind of attack drug abuse and addiction. I thought was very interesting because there was no drugs, but they were addicted to getting possessed.
Well, yeah. Well, I was also going to say they're addicted to social media because remember the first thing they did, like, and I know again, Bisho, I recognize this is very like cryptic, but like they're putting these possessions on social media, like that's how they know about it. I mean, can you imagine if this was real? Like, in other words, if this was real, we lived in a world where this was real. Instead of kids just putting, people getting drunk or saying inappropriate things, they're going to be putting demonic possession and looking on YouTube, Bisho.
Yeah, and I think that's a little more heavy-handed, but what Shah was talking about, I kind of like because I talked to someone else about this. I think maybe it was Sam from Red River when I had him on a while back. But like back in the day when they made movies, of course they would exploit things or they would do things that were more, on the nose as far as thematically. But like, I don't have a problem with a movie having a message or wanting to say something or take a stance or play on something in culture if it's done well artistically. And a lot of times it's done well when it's subtle or when it's symbolic. Like, I never got to make a video about this, but the Texas Chainsaw reboot on Netflix. Um, I know they mentioned school shooting in the movie, but if you look at some of the themes of the movie, like some of the shit takes place like on a school bus. Some of it looks like a quad of a college campus. And then when Leatherface comes around, he's killing all these kids, and the person with the survivor's guilt has to relive all of that. It's a school shooter movie. It's just, it wasn't Ben Shapiro saying, we're going to send someone in to save from the school shooter.
Right.
So, which to me is like a complete lack of artistic, integrity in a way. This is much more like you're doing that, but instead you're putting the layer of Leatherface in Texas on top of it. Or in this, you're talking about the social issues surrounding addiction or around addiction to social media or about these dangerous things that can happen, opening up kids and young people to this unfettered access to each other and what can happen when that goes wild. But it's not like this is why social media is bad. It's just a vehicle for the story.
Yeah. And I do think Shah nails it on the head. Their addiction to becoming possessed. I mean, obviously they're becoming possessed. It's like, it's clearly in the trailer. You could see that. But listen, I think people should go see this movie. I think it's a special film. I don't know how many people, I don't know, excuse me. I don't know how much longer it's going to be out there in the theaters. We don't know when it's coming to streaming. We don't know when it's getting released digitally, but we do know this. It was announced, I guess, 2 days ago by A24. It is officially greenlit for a sequel. They are already laying down the foundation. Now, here's an interesting thing, guys. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Unlike our country, they could immediately shoot this because the strike is only in America and it's only related to films shot here and properties and actors and writers here. So, Shah, they have a green light essentially to make this movie now and get this fucking up in theaters next year.
Well, even if it was shot in America, A24 can still shoot, so it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah,
they're allowed to shoot.
Yeah,
they're like the only company that's allowed to do it.
And Neon, apparently, because Neon, even though Neon announced bankruptcy, Neon is also in that category. They just got announced today. So
wait, you said Neon announced bankruptcy?
Yeah, Neon announced bankruptcy 2 weeks ago. We were going to cover it, but I think it got dropped off the show. Yeah, Bisho, don't you remember I sent that? It said Neon is going bankrupt. Neon announced bankruptcy. No one could understand why this is possible, but
why?
yes.
That's crazy.
Mismanagement.
They put out a lot of great stuff. I mean,
They do. They're a fantastic studio.
Yeah.
And they put out some fairly almost mainstream type things. But yeah, Bisho, I think I sent that as a topic a couple of weeks ago. Neon is bankrupt.
I don't remember seeing it, and I can't find it. I just Googled Neon Films bankruptcy, and it just said July they bought Michael Mann's Ferrari. That's the only thing that's
Yeah,
come
and
up.
they're gonna
talking
that
about
Michael
bankruptcy.
Mann's Ferrari is gonna be is allowed to be because they also um are adhering to the rules of the strike. But yeah, I remember sending this to you guys. They're filed for some type of insolvency there. I don't know, Bischoff, if it was Chapter 9 or Chapter 11, but yeah, they just bought and that's Michael Mann. I'm a huge fan of him. Yeah. Oh well, no, hold on, Neon. Let me see. Yeah, I'm fairly
Yes.
certain they were filing for bankruptcy.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. Is it bankruptcy like they're done looking for a buyer, they're liquidating, or is it they're trying to get rid of debt and restructure?
I think they're trying to get rid of debt and restructure. It wasn't
Okay.
it wasn't like a Chapter 11. It wasn't like but I love Michael Mann. I'm curious about this Ferrari movie. And sticking with the topics, guys, it has come to our attention this week that Insidious, the Red Door, is now officially the highest grossing horror property as of right now in 2023, which is odd because that also means Shaw and Bisho, it beat out Scream. It beat out some other large names properties. This is kind of a big deal, Shaw, don't you think? Because Insidious is, while it's considered always a successful property, it's not something I feel like it comes up a lot in chat rooms or people talk about how much they love the franchise.
No, it's very, again, it's basic bitch horror, I would say. You know, it's like your average audience goes to see it. But before I get into Insidious, I want to mention one more thing on Talk to Me. I thought, again, I could be just making this up. This is how I took it. But I thought, and this is, you know, I don't think it's a spoiler, but when these people get possessed, they essentially go to almost like a different world, right? Like you're like in a different state,
Right.
almost like drugs. I almost look at it as it's saying the teenagers nowadays have it so bad that they want to escape reality and they're willing to go to this state, and this is more comfortable than the real world that they're living in.
Yeah,
You
I can
know?
see that for sure. And I also think because it means they're going to get more attention and that they're just trying to get attention and get the likes, Bisho. They just want the likes. You know, like all this will become evident when you see the film. But yeah, Shaw, that's an interesting point because I think it's I think that's maybe what they were going for, these guys, because they're YouTube guys, they're backyard wrestling guys. It's a very heavy. I feel like this is going to be one of these movies that everybody's got their own interpretation of,
Yeah.
because they just don't want to say it's a great horror movie. They'll be like, no, 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 it's an indictment on internet culture. No, 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 it's an indictment on the unhappiness of the youth. No, 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 like you know what I mean? Like Shaw, I feel like and it can be all these things. All these things can exist at once.
Yeah. And I could just be reaching. I haven't heard anybody else mention that in any review. So it could just be me, and somebody else could watch it and be like, yeah, I don't see that at all. But to me, when I watched it, I was like, oh shit, I think they're saying that these teenagers have it so bad and like the future is so dim that they don't care. They want to escape reality.
Yeah.
And if it's go to hell, they'd rather go there than go to college and not have a job when they graduate, and fucking everything's so expensive, and
Yeah.
COVID is killing people during this time, and fucking people are dying off fentanyl, and it's just like, you know what I mean? So,
And also, we
one of
don't
those
know
things.
Australian youth culture, guys. Like, we don't know,
Right.
like, we don't know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know the big difference. I'm sure there's a lot of similarities between our youth culture and Australia's, but this is the literal other side of the earth. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, Bisho? So it's like, there might be things in there that none of us are picking up because we're not Australian.
And I think that's another feather in their cap about making a great movie is it's open to interpretation. It's like what's his name from Billy Corgan when people talk about what 1979 really means. He's like, no, it's whatever it means to you. At the time, it was whatever it meant to me, but it's whatever you get from it, whatever you interpret from it.
Yeah.
And I think it's that theater of the mind type of thing where it's not just not seeing the monster and picturing it yourself. It's these themes that stay with you because they're relatable and because they make you think. So no, I'm really excited, and I'm regretting not going to see it this weekend a little bit.
Well, yeah. So just to clarify what I said earlier, Insidious: The Red Door unlocks 183 million as it becomes the biggest horror film of 2023. Still making money, guys, after this weekend that just happened, which is, I didn't know this was still in fucking theaters. It's now, it closed out last weekend at 182.5. Now it edged out. This is interesting too, because I completely forgot about this film and I saw it. It beat out, which was considered the highest grossing horror property so far, Megan. Megan was 180 million, 0.8. So it slightly beats out Megan. Megan goes to number 2. Bisho, what do you think about that? That's interesting. I completely forgot about Megan.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like there's so much stuff coming out that I can't even keep up with my list because every week you guys talk about something new or we bring something up. And Megan didn't seem like it was this year. You mentioned Scream earlier. I was thinking Scream was last year for some reason.
It's
And
this year. Scream was this year, guys, wasn't it?
I know. And I went to the movies to see that too.
Yeah,
So I'm
so
really
did I.
surprised.
And Sha, you didn't watch the new one, but you watched the backlog, right, of the Screams to try to catch up.
Not all of them. I'm up to the second one. I've only seen the first 2. So.
Okay. No, didn't you skip 1 and go to 4? I thought you skipped.
Yeah, I've seen 4. I haven't seen 3 or 5. But
Okay.
I own 5. I bought 5. I just haven't watched it.
Is 5 the most recent one? Bisho? No, 6 is the most recent one. I'm so confused.
Yeah, 6 is the
'cause
most recent one.
Okay.
They just greenlit 7, and it's I'm
Jeez.
trying to remember who got greenlit to direct it, but they're like I think Blumhouse guys. I'll find that out.
I'm sure it's a.
There's a lot of
Blumhouse
people
thing.
disappointed with how good 5 and 6 was received, and then now they're going with these other guys that are like PG-13 horror guys. But
What I thought these were the most recent Screams. I almost am positive they are.
They were, but now the new people coming in to helm this new movie have done other movies that were like PG-13 horror. I'll try to find out
Oh, that
what
would be a
is.
mistake. All the Screams are R, Bisho. Every Scream is an R movie because they're graphic gore. There's no way they're going to have those stabbings and call those PG-13 movies. There's just no way. But I would have thought Scream was the top. I mean, just off the top of my head, I just thought by name recognition alone, and it was super successful and it was well received. And we talked about it. I liked it. Bisho liked it. It wasn't great, but it was good. It was passable. Shout out to Joe Punches who joined us in the chat there earlier. And of course, we got Johnny718 Bravo, and Slave Cheeks is just killing it in there. But people like this Scream franchise. Now, did either of you guys see Megan?
No, I still haven't seen it, but I'm honestly surprised that Evil Dead Rise isn't the highest grossing one. I thought that was going to be like number 1.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's in the top 5 of horror, actually. I think it's
crazy.
software. Well, it's still considered a massive success. I don't think it cost a lot of money. Bisho, you did not see Megan either?
I didn't. I saw Evil Dead Rise. I did not see Megan. And
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen it. You know what I mean? I watched the Child's Play reboot, and from what I heard about Megan, it seems very similar to that.
Mm.
So and then I saw the girl doing the goofy dance, and that went viral.
TikTok
and
dance.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, Megan is super successful. There's going to be another Megan. They're obviously doing another Scream. They're doing another Talk to Me. Oh, we're going to be talking about these movies in the next year or two. They all might come out around the same fucking time. It's a weird year for the 2023 horror, but I did find that interesting that Insidious, of all of these movies and some of these things, Evil Dead, like Shah said, now we're talking about Scream, Megan, which was a super big success. Insidious still making money. It's been out for I think it's been out for like a month, right?
Insidious?
Yeah.
I think like 3 weeks, probably. Yeah.
But it's also in the it predates the Oppenheimer rush, the Barbie rush, right? The Turtles. It's it might have come out. Guys, I feel like it came out around the time of Spider-Man.
Wikipedia says July 7th.
So in a month, wow, Bisho, but it's still making money. So it was out for 4 weeks making money. Just keeps making fucking money.
Wikipedia says 182 million on a $16 million budget.
Oh, what? 16? Wow, that is impressive as fuck. Oh my god. And you know what, guys? They're gonna have to make more of these, right? I mean, Shah, they have to make it. This movie just made almost $200 million.
No, yeah, it's definitely gonna have more. I'm thinking we're gonna get a lot of horror movies coming out in October, though. So I'm thinking some of the heavy hitters are probably coming out.
Well,
in October.
Let's be frank. It's gonna belong to The Exorcist by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
And of
100%.
course, we did not bring this up, but we really should bring this up. William Friedkin passed away this week, earlier in the week. Very sort of, I think he was in his early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. He was 83. William Friedkin is a very interesting person because he's known primarily for like 2 films in like 50 plus years, and they're absolute fucking ragers. I mean, like, honestly. Um, he also did a movie a couple of years back. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. I saw it and I fucking love it and I highly recommend it. Have either of you ever seen Bug?
Yes, I have. It's actually a very
Oh,
underrated movie. I love it.
Shah, how fucking great is that fucking movie?
That came around the same time. I think the movie The Ruins came out. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I saw both of them at the theater, I think.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Bug is a small art house movie with Ashley Judd and Michael Shannon, who was not really anyone at this point. This is before for people who don't know Michael Shannon, he became sort of a star from his role on Boardwalk Empire. He also played Zod in the DC reboots. Michael Shannon's done a lot of good artsy kind of work. He just played George Jones in a biopic on Showtime, but he just destroys this movie. Shah, if you remember, this dude is on a whole other. This is like method shit right here.
Yeah, actually, that's coming out in Australia on Blu-ray. I want to buy it because they're not putting it out in America. They canceled it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said he was too hard to work with.
William Friedkin, he did have a reputation. I don't know if you guys ever seen it. He didn't hold his tongue for anything, which a lot of people
they said with the
like
restoration work, they had to basically check in with him constantly, and he was not getting back to them, and it became a hassle, so they just canceled the release. So
yeah, and
Australia is the only way to get it.
Of course, we're talking about The Exorcist and The French Connection, which are considered in the annals of cinema history just untouchable movies. And I've talked to you guys about French Connection, and I've sent you guys that car scene. I mean, you got to be show. You got to direct things like this. Even The Exorcist for that time period where there was no blueprint for horror, no blueprint for scary movies, practical effects. Even talking about the devil in that context could fucking get your movie banned, and the heavy right hand of Christianity. I mean, balls to make a movie like that.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest car chase scenes I've ever seen. I would rank that. Obviously, my favorite personally is the Blues Brothers with all the cop cars crashing.
Very different scene.
Yes, very different. But it was great, and you mentioned the right hand of the Christian, power influence. I wonder if the new Exorcist is not going to be as successful or as big a success as we think it will be, because you don't have that as much now. Like, you politically, you have it. There will be some outrage, but I don't think it's as new and uncharted as it was 50 years ago.
Mm.
So I don't know. That remains to be seen. I just, how many exorcism movies have there been in the past 5 years? I think
a couple.
Yeah, who's the guy from
we had the Pope's Exorcism with Russell Crowe. We had that movie about the devil that I saw that I walked out of. It was one of the first movies I walked out of in like 20 years. I just was bored. Like, Speak of the Devil, and I was really looking forward to it. There's some more independent ones I think that are hitting up some lists. But I mean, The Exorcist is a special. I mean, Exorcist, is that like your number 2 behind Shining?
Yeah, it's a toss up between those two, man, I would say. As far as all-time favorite, it has to be one of those two. Absolutely.
Where would you put Friedkin as a director up there with? Do you think he belongs in that category with the elite of directors when it comes to the shit he did well?
To be honest with you, I think the only movies I've seen by him is Exorcist and Bug. I don't think I've seen anything else.
Okay. Yeah, you need to see French Connection, dude. It'll kill you.
No.
It's hard, dude. It's a hard movie, bro. It is hard as balls.
But I mean, I think his portfolio just is not long enough to be up there with like a Kubrick and Scorsese and guys like that.
Yeah, he had a reputation. There's a video of him. I don't know if you guys ever saw it, when people had asked him about how much, because he didn't do Exorcist 2, and he talked about how terrible it was. And this is like a couple of years ago. This is like in a modern, maybe in the 2000s. But apparently, like, he was not an easy person. Like, but then again, you're talking about Kubrick, Shah. Kubrick was anything but a fucking easy person.
Yeah, he seemed horrible on the set, man. I mean, he literally traumatized a lot of the actresses and actors that work with him, pretty much
Yeah.
tortured them mentally just to get better acting skills out of them. You know,
Oh yeah, and you can go. I mean, we could say that about. I mean, look, nobody says that about Spielberg or Scorsese, or anything like that. But the biggest knock on what's his face, the Birds and Psycho, uh,
Hitchcock.
Hitchcock shot. And be sure you know this too. Hitchcock was kind of a douchebag. Like he was not a nice guy, and he was notoriously shitty to his performers.
I think that was like socially more acceptable back then too. Also, if you were successful, you just kind of like, had the right to just be snobbish and put your nose in the air and just kind of be a dick, and everybody bowed down to you. I feel like in the 60s and 50s, that was kind of greenlit for a lot of these people that were in the elite positions. But I mean, nowadays, obviously, you can't do that because you'll get exposed in 2 seconds.
Oh God, no.
What I mean?
Yeah.
You look at Keanu Reeves. Everybody praises him for being a good guy. So it goes both ways. What's his name? Post Malone. That's another guy. Like I can't stand him. Because he just annoys me. But
Right.
he's very nice to his fans. Like
People seem to, yeah, he seems like a very affable, nice dude. Like I said that
he-
about him to somebody today. I go, I don't know dick about his music, but he seems like a really likable guy.
hell
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
There was a kid that met him. The kid had autism in a restaurant, and you could just tell like
The beer, the thing with the beer, Shaw.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, he was great, wasn't he? That was great.
And also he just recently went to a prom with this like overweight girl that I guess couldn't have like anybody else. He went to a prom with her and he was holding her like he's like her boyfriend. You know what I mean? It wasn't like
Oh, you got to
some
be
shit.
kidding me.
Oh yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's a good dude.
Yeah. B Show, did you ever see that beer thing with Post Malone?
No, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. But one thing I want to ask is, Friedkin, I think he did an interview I saw recently about Pacino, where they asked him about great actors, and he completely trashed him and said he's like not a good actor and not professional and not talented and kind of a piece of shit. Yeah.
Really?
I wish I could find it. I think it was on TikTok. So
I
I'm
gotta
scrolling
see
through.
that. I gotta read that. I'm
Yeah,
not saying it's not true, but Shaw, you ever hear anything like that? That sounds amazing. Jesus.
No, I haven't seen this.
Holy shit. Yeah, every time I saw people talking to him, he seemed kind of like this, don't really want to be doing this shit. But that, listen, the guy directed just take those 2 films. He may have directed the greatest horror film of all time, and he may have directed the greatest action movie of all time. And these movies are 50 fucking years old. Be a dick. I don't care. You know what I mean? Honestly, and some of his other stuff may not nearly have been as successful, but even like a small movie like Bug, like I guarantee you, I'll tell you this too. If you watch Bug now, Bug could come out today. It's like 18 years old or whatever. That movie could come out today. Don't you think so, Sean?
Yeah, nothing would definitely hold up well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It would hold up well. And I also believe it's based on a play. It's a very small art house film.
Pretty
But
disturbing too.
It's great. Yeah, some of the shit in there is really rough to watch. Really rough to watch. B-Show, so you're saying he had that on video, that interview, or did he do
someone was doing an interview. I don't remember what movie they're talking about, and I forgot we can't play it because we're on YouTube.
Yeah.
But he pretty much just calls, like, they ask him about like great actors like Pacino or something like that, and he just pretty much calls him a no talent hack. It just dresses him down for like a minute and a half.
Okay. Well, maybe he had a bad experience, and that's the other thing too. I don't know. Listen, Pacino, you can't call Pacino a no talent.
I think it was because he was like unprepared and didn't know his lines and stuff or something like that. But
Really? And
if
by
I
the way,
remember
guys,
right, yeah.
he could be talking about Pacino in like 1974 or something like that. Like, this guy, this is a long time ago. But he passed away earlier this week. He's a legendary filmmaker. There was a couple of other famous people who passed away too. I think Robbie Robertson of the band passed away. A famous musician passed away whose name escapes me. They made a movie about him a bunch of years ago. An independent film. I can't remember his name. Someone's going to G-check me on this. But before we head over to the Patreon and the bonus portion, I did want to talk about this on the air here because I think it's fascinating. So a couple of weeks ago, I guess we talked about it because it was opening up, and the movie The Meg, which was a very successful movie from a few years ago, the sequel came out. And I saw this trailer quite a bit in all the movies I saw. And I saw it was Jason Statham, and it looked like they poured a bunch of money into it. And I was just, no one seemed to have an interest in it. But I had no idea how terrible this movie was going to perform. because it is Jason Statham. It is coming off of a successful previous film, and it looks like they put some dough into it, right? This is an epic fucking disaster for the studio. I guess this lasted 2 weeks in theaters, and they already announced today that it has the digital release.
Well, it's going to streaming, I think. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Which
2
shows
weeks?
like clearly it didn't do well, man. You know?
2 weeks?
Yeah. Which surprised me, man. This is like one of those cheesy, stupid horror movies that I see people going with their family. You know what I mean? Like mom and dad taking their 12-year-old kid to the movie type of shit. But I guess it just didn't do well. But then again, Barbie and Oppenheimer, they're still fucking red hot, man. I mean, those two movies, I drive by the movie theater because I'm driving all the time, but I see people dressed in Barbie gear 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Nonstop.
Yeah,
on
it's still
Monday.
making money. Yeah. So I want to just break this down, B-Show. But domestic take was 35 million. Okay. I don't know what the budget of this movie is. We'll have to pull it up. But the international take is 145 million, and they still are considering it a huge disaster, and they have to put it out on streaming right away to try to recoup.
Well, I also see, according to Collider, that it made 153 million in
Overall.
that country, but I don't know if that's the franchise or just that, because there's
Maybe
another
the
note that says
franchise?
Middle Kingdom made 150 million worldwide. Sorry,
Global.
so
Yeah,
153
just
million must
150
be total
global.
or something.
Okay. Yeah. But here we have another movie that made a lot of money, but it was nothing compared, I assume, to the budget and the marketing, and they have to rush it out on streaming. I mean, do you think this might be one of the last movies we see like this with the big bloated? Because now we're coming out of, guys, 150 million. I mean, that's not, that's 30 million less than the highest grossing horror movie of the year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is I don't understand the quick turnaround or people saying it's not a success. It sounds like it did pretty well internationally. I'm trying to find out what the
budget is.
was.
Okay, the budget was 129 million.
Yeah, that's why it was expensive.
Oh.
So so just like The Flash, which made a lot of money, but not enough money to sustain the budget and sustain the marketing. I don't know. I mean, this is this is a strange thing to me because once again, we have one of these properties. The previous movie made a shit ton of money. We established this a few weeks ago, and this didn't do well. Why are they making?
Terrible? I mean, it made back what it would cost basically.
And after marketing shop probably didn't even do that.
That's what I'm saying. This is a huge failure in that case because they usually got to double their budget to even consider that a profit. This is nowhere near. This would have had to make like 350, million just for them to be like, okay, this did okay.
Yeah, I mean, but let me ask you guys a question, and then we'll move on to the Patreon. Why did the first movie do so well with the same shit, and this one made like a third of it and has to get rushed to digital? Why do you think that would be, Shah? Honestly, like, what could it be marketably that much stupider than the previous stupid one?
Honestly, it looked really bad, but I think
looked terrible.
I think the crowd that would have watched this probably went to Barbie. This isn't an Oppenheimer crowd, but this is like the moms in there. No, I'm serious. Like, this is the type of person that would go see Meg 2 in the movie theater is like the 40-year-old mom with the dad on it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the crowd. It's not fucking. I don't see too many 22-year-olds going to see Meg 2 in the theaters. They're probably going to see Talk to Me, Barbie, Oppenheimer. They're not watching Meg 2.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, so why do you think it is? Because they clearly look like the same stupid fucking movie.
I think the timing, because Joe Punches, I think he had a delay, or maybe I did. Joe Punches brought up that Oppenheimer alone, he thought grossed 900. I see a mark of 600 million. So if you got Oppenheimer grossing 600, if you got Barbie doing $1 billion at the same time you put out this. Also, if you remember, the first Meg came out, Megalodon was a big thing because during Shark Week and there were
Shark Week. We just ended Shark Week though, B. I think Shark Week was last week.
I think they probably thought they'd get some audience because it was summertime, Shark Week, stuff like that. But I think the first Meg benefited being the first because it wasn't like a tired out thing. Megalodon was still kind of new in pop culture, and it was billed as like bigger than Jaws and stuff like that. But really, when you're competing with these other two huge monstrous movies, plus you got other movies coming out like Mario.
Talk to me.
Talk to Me and all these other movies.
Turtles.
It probably just got Turtles too.
Yeah.
So I think it probably just got lost and it didn't look that good. So if people saw the first one and this one looks like shit, they're like, okay, well, I saw that already. So
Yeah. And
that's
by the
my
way,
take, I
guys,
guess.
I do feel, and I think you guys will agree, because I feel like this comes from, I hear this from Shaw quite a bit. The bad special effects might have been the undoing of this film.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
people could have, you know what I'm saying, Shaw? Like people could have been fine with the dumb plot and the stupidness of this and that. But when they saw like the bad special effects, they said, no.
Well, I think it's a lot more to it than that. It looked dumb. You know, Jason Statham fucking kicking a megalodon away. That makes me not want to watch the movie, no matter how silly it is. Like, even if it's a trauma level film, when it comes to silliness and goofiness, I still wouldn't want to watch it. You know, from trauma kicking a shark away. But you got to keep in mind, man. We just talked about Barbie and Oppenheimer. They alone pulled over $1.5 billion from movie theaters, right? I think it's also budgeting. I mean, we're talking about inflation. I don't know if people have the money to go see multiple movies. You know, they probably had to choose, and they're like, "Yo, I'm gonna go see Barbie and Oppenheimer and see what the hype is." Because a lot of people probably went and saw both. You know, if you're going with a family of 5,
clearly people did, yeah.
If you're going with a family of a kid, let's say 2 kids, you know, wife and the mom. I mean, the mom and the dad. You're looking at like $150, $200. You know, how many times a week can you do that?
Yeah.
And do you want to repeat that process for Meg 2? You know, I don't know if you want to do that.
Yeah. For that money, you could have bought into Meg 2. You could have actually got your name in the production credits. But we're going to wrap this up and head over to the Patreon bonus portion of the show. And again, you need to go to patreon.com/break the app to hear that bonus show, which is going to go out exclusively to the Patreon members. And of course, you know, that's just $5 a month. So you're going to want to be on that. So let's get our plugs out there. We want to plug our friends over at Deathmatch Outlaws and, of course, the Drew Yari Show. Cassette Classics 86 on YouTube, the Down on the Thundercast, Don Tony, Necromaniacs podcast. You got to be checking them out every week. And, of course, the Inhuman Experience podcast. Our good friends Mojo and Dirk's Most Dastardly Show, The Garden of Doom. And then, of course, you have the Old Guy Metalcast. FunkBetty.com. You got to get some nice clothes there for the fall coming up at the end of the summer. I'm sure you're going to want to go to FunkBetty.com and get some clothes today. MJW Games, and of course Cherry Jesus on YouTube and his band Kaiser. He's got an album coming out pretty soon. Got to check that out. And of course our good friend Sam over at the Red River Podcast and his band Playing Dead. Our good friend Bayou Geeks Fatty 316, the High Marks Podcast, the Midnight Mass Creature Cast, of course the Weekly Detour with Anthony Alston and Teddy, and the Guns and Geeks Podcast. Shot anything new on Planet Mondo this week?
Nothing new yet, but it's hard for me to upload videos. Like I literally have no more time. I'm working like 52 hours a week, so I just don't have time. But I'm thinking about doing some live streams because I go through the websites a lot with, you know, DVD and Blu-ray news and all that shit. So I'm thinking about doing some live streams where I just share my screen and I kind of give people what to look out for, what's coming out, almost like a physical media news stream, if you will. I'll probably start doing that on Planet Mondo. But yeah, check me out on there. Instagram, planet.mondo. Hit me up.
And of course, we need them to subscribe.
Yeah, and hit that like button. Hit that like button on this video, please. Subscribe and hit that motherfucking like button, please.
Oh yeah, for realsies. And of course,
Roundhouse ticket. Hit it with a chair. You know,
hit it. Yeah, hit it with a folding chair, which we're gonna get to in the Patreon, people. So you don't want to miss that. We're gonna have a folding chair special. B Show, what's happening on the B Show Brian channel?
I will almost say word for word what Shah said. I don't know if it's biorhythm or if it's in the air, but I wanted to stream or record something Tuesday night. Ended up being like work until midnight on something. It's just I can't do long form videos and edit it like that anymore. So I thought about maybe doing like a Tuesday or Wednesday night stream and then cutting it up to be its own video or something. So I'm working on that and maybe going back to, instead of just reviewing a trailer that comes out or reviewing a new movie, you know, maybe going back to talking about classic movies because that's my jam anyway, and also like unmade movies and stuff like that because I just find that easier to talk about. So bshowbrian.com. When I can put more stuff up, I will. I appreciate everyone following and hit the notification bell because with Shaw and I not being able to post regularly, you'll be notified when new stuff comes up on both of our channels. So
there you go.
Thank you, and see you on the flip side.
Yeah, and of course, we want to thank everybody for hanging out. People like Slave Cheeks and Joe Punches, and of course, Chris Matthews. Everybody who was chilling in there. I thought Nasty Leroy was in there earlier. You know, this is still a very new thing, so please feel free to leave your comments, reach out to us, And we thank you guys for checking us out. But we'll see you next week on Spitball Media Podcast. Have a good night.
Peace.